Hi, I'm Marc from Absolute Music and I'm with Andy today from JBL Professional. So JBL are a brand that we've started to do quite a lot here at Absolute Music, but it's a brand I don't have a huge sort of background of knowledge about. Would you mind explaining what you guys do?
Sure, no problem. So JBL has been around for about 80 years, and certainly if you haven't come across our professional products, you might know us for things like these small in-ear headphones, Bluetooth speakers and things like that. But the reality is we've been in the professional environment for way longer than we've been in the consumer field. Okay. And in a nutshell, what JBL does is make a speaker for every single application. So for example, we make speakers like this little baby one here, which you've probably heard in a bar or a restaurant, all the way up to something you'll find hanging in stadiums. So say something like Tottenham or Twickenham stadiums in the UK are a good example.
Yeah, okay.
And we make everything in between, and as I say, a speaker for every application. So the other thing we were big in historically was cinema. So about half of the cinemas in the world have JBL sound systems in. So the chances are you've actually heard a JBL sound system without even knowing you've been listening to it.
So what does JBL as a brand stand for?
So there's a few different pillars to our vision, if you like. One of them is sound quality, and one of the ways we control that is by making all of our own transducers, so the drivers that go inside the speakers, so the tweeters and the woofers. When we design a product, we design those drivers in harmony with the enclosures they're going into, which gives us a product that comes off the production line as a very acoustically good product, and then we can use digital signal processing just to polish the sound, just to elevate it. Not many of our competition can do that. Okay. Secondly, reliability. So when we're producing a product, we put the components and the finished designs through torture testing. The final one of those tests is a 100-hour torture test, where basically the product is abused in ways it would never be abused in the real world. However, if it doesn't pass that test, we go back to the drawing board, redesign the product and carry on. What's interesting is we don't discriminate how that test is applied. So if you buy a speaker from us that's £300 or you buy a speaker from us that's £7,000, it goes through the same testing regime. What that gives you as a user is a product that is reliable in everyday use, and one of the ways we kind of back that up is with the 7-year warranty that you'll see on EON and PRX products. One of the other key things is we make sure that we always bring something extra. So when we look at the features that a product has, the benefits it provides to the end user, we try not to bring out me too product. We always try and improve on what we've done before and also what is out there in the market. So the idea is that the end user gets a speaker that sounds great, is reliable, and basically just makes their life easier when they come to operate it.
So Andy, I see we've got a large selection of portable PA speakers here. I can see you do some nice compact ones. What's the difference?
Okay, Mark, so we've got basically 3 different ranges in the portable PA and then 3 different form factors. So the ranges are IRX, EON and PRX, which is our good, better and best ranges. And then the form factors are compact, where we have the little EON One Compact, column, where we've got the 3 columns here, and then cabinet, where we have the IRX 100 series, EON 700, and also PRX 900. The IRX series is designed to be really, really easy to use. It means that anyone with either no or limited experience can get good sound quickly. When you move up to the EON and PRX series, we add in more professional features, additional levels of control and digital signal processing, and of course, as you go up the food chain, the sound quality and the volume of the speakers increases. So Mark, let me take you through some of the range. This is the IRX 112, which is a 12-inch cabinet, and this is from our good range. Remember, we had the good, better and best. A pretty simple product, to be honest with you, designed to be easy to use, and you can see that from the back panel. There's no menus, it's just what you see is what you get. Now that doesn't mean it doesn't share some of the features of its bigger siblings. We have what's called drive rack inside here, which basically boils down to giving you preset equalization on the output, so you can change what the speaker sounds like depending on the environment you're working in. We have a bass boost button for those DJs. And we have a thing called AFS, which is an anti-feedback system, and that's automatic. It's very simple. You turn it on, put your microphones out, turn the speakers up, and it will start pulling out those annoying frequencies that start squealing. In real terms, what that gets you is about an extra 3 to 4 dB of volume when you're using the product. Also makes it really, really good as a stage monitor, because as you imagine, you've got them right at your feet pointing into the back of the microphone, and anything that stops that feedback coming back at the artist is really useful. And then finally, we've got a feature called ducking. What that does is if you're streaming music via Bluetooth, so say you were doing, I don't know, like background music at a wedding, if you've then got a microphone plugged into one of the inputs, when you speak, it drops the volume of the music until you finish speaking and then raises it back up again.
Useful feature. And I've noticed, is that Bluetooth you've got there as well?
Yeah, like I say, Bluetooth streaming, and that works either stereo to one speaker, or we can use it in twin wireless stereo to two speakers.
Okay. So Andy, who do you think these are for?
So the beauty about these is the simplicity of use. So it's for anyone who isn't particularly up on their audio knowledge, or anyone that just wants to get results quickly. These products are also really lightweight, so really transportable. If you don't fancy lifting heavier boxes, then this would be a great product for you. Also, this is the entry point to our range. So again, if you're on a bit of a budget, then this would be the product to look at.
So we've just been talking about the IRX range, which is your more entry level. I'm guessing this is the next range up?
Yeah, that's right. So this is the EON 712, which is from the EON 700 series. Now, if you've been around in the audio industry a little while, you'll recognise the word EON. Traces its lineage back to the mid-90s, where JBL created the first powered moulded loudspeaker cabinet. And like I say, some of that DNA is still within this speaker. The difference between this and IRX, firstly, with the IRX, we use a dome tweeter as the high frequency driver. That gives you a warmer sound. When we move up to EON, we put a compression driver in. What that compression driver gives you is firstly a little bit more detail, but also the capability for more level as well. The other thing we do, as you can see on here, is we go from a very simple back panel to something that has a menu driven system on it. This speaker's got quite sophisticated digital signal processing built into it, and you can access that via the rear panel or through the PRO Connect app, which I'll show you in a little while. And I'll show you the detail when we talk PRO Connect, that it's much easier to do it there.
So who is this for?
So this product, I would say primarily bands, DJs, rental companies do use them as well as a kind of workhorse product. But yeah, it just gives you that little bit more, as I say, detail, a bit more volume than the IRX series. Now, don't get me wrong, IRX 112 is still perfectly capable of being used for a smaller band, but say you had a rock band or a DJ that really wants to give some punch to the audience, then EON would be your starting point.
Oh, that's not as heavy as I was expecting actually for its size.
No, one of the features of the EON 700 range is they are really lightweight and not quite as light as IRX, but they're still very transportable. The other thing to bear in mind of this as well is this is the first model that then has the 7-year warranty.
So we've met good, we've met better. What's next?
So what's next is the PRX 900 series, and it goes from this little baby speaker, the 908, all the way up to the PRX 925, and there's a number of models in between with accompanying subwoofers. However, these guys, despite looking very different, actually share a lot of the same characteristics. So firstly, the high frequency driver in both of them is the same, so the top end sounds very, very similar, and they have the same digital signal processing, the same amplifier module and everything else. So despite the fact that they might physically look different, they're part of this ecosystem of really kind of high-end, really good sounding products, all of which have the same features. Yeah. What I find really interesting about this is, so this high frequency driver that I'm talking about is something that actually started life in a product that was way, way more expensive than this a number of years ago. And one of the great things about JBL is because we've got this massive range of speakers, when we've paid for technology that's been used in the very high-end product, it cascades down to the lower level. So for products that we're selling in retail stores, it's got driver technology that originated in a product that was way more expensive. And that's why these sound so good for the money. Is because it's got that technology.
So having a quick glance, this looks a bit more involved than the last range that we've looked at.
Well, certainly you're right. I mean, obviously we've still got the screen. It's actually a full colour screen on this one, whereas the 700 is a 4-colour screen. Still got 2 inputs. We also have an analog input, whereas the third channel on the EON 700 is Bluetooth. So this replaces the Bluetooth with a stereo 3.5mm jack. But yeah, you're right. We've also got link outputs on the inputs as well. Now, the reason for that is these might be used as part of larger systems. So for example, if you've got customers who might be running slightly bigger DJ events, or if they're in a function band, or indeed rental companies. So a lot of rental companies use these again as workhorse loudspeakers. In terms of what's in the signal processing, it's quite similar to the EON. The only massive difference is the fact you get more bands of EQ on the output.
So why does it have an auxiliary input rather than Bluetooth?
The reason for that is a Bluetooth signal is compressed. These speakers are capable of some relatively high sound pressure levels, and once you get up to those levels, basically Bluetooth audio as it currently is just doesn't sound that great. So we took the decision to put a hardwired analog connector on these instead of Bluetooth.
So there's a considerable size difference between these two. What else sits in this range?
We start the range with the PRX 908, which, as the name suggests, is an 8-inch driver. Then we move beyond that to the PRX 912 and the PRX 915. So those are the kind of traditional two-way boxes, if you like. Then we move past the 915 to the 925. This is the 925. It's still two-way from an audio perspective, but it has twin 15-inch drivers. What that gives you is, firstly, a lot more level. This is the loudest box in the range. And I'd say this is best suited to people doing club events, DJs. So those two 15-inch drivers really give a punch that hits you quite hard. Now, the other box in the range, which is off camera over there, is a PRX 935. Now that's a three-way box. So you've got a high frequency driver, a mid-range driver, and a single 15-inch. That single 15-inch is actually quite similar to the 15-inch driver that's in the 15-inch sub. So effectively, that's a full range box for when you want maximum sound quality. Volume-wise, it's nearly as loud as this box as well, and I would suggest that would be best for live music versus a DJ application. And then, as I say, we've got a 15-inch sub and an 18-inch sub, which can be used in any combination with the top cabinets.
So the 935, out of interest, would you then couple that with a sub, or can you use it just standalone?
It would really depend on the venue you were in, but you could use two of those on stands. So both this and the 935 are stand mountable. You could use them on stands for a band, because obviously a band, yes, you've got some low bass content, but it's not that kind of real low frequency stuff you get from electronic music. So yes, if you're doing a pub gig, two of those would give you an amazing result. I should add, by the way, that the levels these are capable of getting up to, you could do gigs for 200-300 people.
Oh wow, okay. So we've gone through the cabinet range, which you traditionally use with a mixing desk. I see you've got an all-in-one range here. Firstly, what does all-in-one stand for?
Okay, well, it's quite simple. With the products we were talking about before, the cabinets, you would generally use them with a mixing desk, a separate mixing desk. You'd have a mixer, cables out, your speakers on stands or on top of subwoofers, right? Okay. With something like the IRX One and the other products we're going to look at, the mixer is built into the product. So there's no stands, no cables, it's all the self-contained unit. So simply put, that's what all-in-one means.
Okay. So why do you build the mixer in?
Basically for simplicity. So for example, as you can see, this product is completely self-contained within this one package. If I open the top, I can just pull out the sections of the column. And as you can see, it sets up in seconds. Plug in your mains and you're ready to go. I mean, that was what, 5 seconds to set up?
That's pretty cool.
So that's the big difference. Also, with these products, you can use them singly. With the traditional cabinets, you might normally use them as pairs. And the reason you can use them singly is because you've got this array of drivers at the top, which spreads the sound very wide. With the cabinet loudspeakers, you would tend to use two of them in a stereo configuration, and they're a little bit narrower in terms of the dispersion. Moving around to the back of the unit, so as you can see, we've got a really simple mixer on here. This is actually a digital mixer, but it's an analog controlled digital mixer. As you can see, we've got a couple of microphone inputs, and you could also plug either line level sources or instrument level sources into those as well. And then also we've got a third line input. So you've got 3 inputs. What you see is what you get on the control panel, very easy to operate. And then we also have the anti-feedback system built in, as on the previous products, and the ducking. And then there is a 4th channel which you can't see, which is Bluetooth, and you control the volume on that from your phone. Then finally, just some preset EQs, so you can change the sound of the speaker for speech, DJ, karaoke, a cafe setup, or just to be a bit brighter than normal. So yeah, very simple, designed to be super simple to use, quick setup.
So Andy, I recognise these. These are one of our best sellers here at Absolute Music. Can you tell me all about it?
Yeah, so this product is called the EON One Compact. Compact by name and obviously compact by nature. So this is actually a battery powered product. As you can see here, it is powered up. It's not plugged in, it's just powered up from the onboard battery. Obviously this is a great product for people like buskers. I mean, they're not often near power supplies, but it's not just for them, because there's loads of applications for battery powered speakers outside of busking, mainly to save time and money and effort on cabling. I mean, if you don't need to plug it into the mains, why would you? This product's fairly simple exterior belies what's actually going on inside. So within this product is actually a fairly well featured digital mixer. You can access that via the side panel. So as you can see here, we've got a system of buttons which enable you to either adjust the volume on all of the channels simultaneously, or you can enter a kind of a channel strip mode where you get bass, treble, reverb and volume for each channel. Moving round to the back slightly, there's a couple of microphone inputs which are combi inputs, so you can plug instruments and line sources into them as well. We've got a third channel which is a line only input or instrument, and then the fourth channel is a stereo channel which can either be Bluetooth streaming from a tablet or phone, or you can also just plug into the 3.5mm jack on the back. Moving further down, we've got a pass-through output, so if you do want to use multiple speakers, you can come out of that and daisy chain into one or more speakers. And then finally, you've got a headphone output as well. So if you're setting up on stage or if you're rehearsing at home and you need to be quiet, you can still use the benefits of the built-in mixer without necessarily having to make any noise. This product can be used either stood on a stand like this. It has a pole mount on the bottom. You can use it as a monitor as well, or just stick it on top of a piano or something if you wanted to. The product actually is intelligent enough to know which orientation it's being used in, and will actually EQ the output very slightly to compensate if it's being put on the floor. One of the key features in the mixer on this is you can control it using the PRO Connect application. So whilst the panel here is very simple, if we use the PRO Connect app, we can get far deeper into it. And when you load up PRO Connect, you actually get access to more features as well. So firstly, we only have a knob for reverb on the side of the unit. If you're using the app, we have reverb, delay and chorus built in, and you can adjust the parameters on those. So it's not like a reverb that's just 0 to 10, it's a genuine reverb that you can change the reverb time on.
Oh wow, okay.
And those are on separate effect sends as well, so you can use all three of those effects independently of each other. In addition to the bass and treble on each channel on the mixer, you also have 4 bands of parametric EQ on each channel, plus parametric EQ on the output as well. So you can tune this to sound however you want in a space, or just to tweak it for the EQ you want to use.
So the most popular question that comes with a battery powered amp, what is the battery life like?
Okay, so you can get up to 12 hours. But realistically, if you want to use it full blast, it's going to last about 4 hours. Now, the battery is contained in this little compartment on the back. It's just a thumb screw to undo it, and we make spare batteries and also a fast charger as well. So if the battery operation is essential to you, you can be up and running, just swap the battery. It takes about 10-15 seconds, and then you could carry on using the product. So from that point of view, the battery life isn't too much of an issue. The other thing the battery gives us is the ability to power things from these USB sockets on the back. Firstly, you could use that for recharging a device, say you're streaming or controlling the unit. But secondly, it means you can also power things like radio mic receivers and guitar pedals. So here's my radio mic receiver, and the way you power it is by using one of these JBL inverter cables. These are available as either USB to 9 volt or USB to 12 volt. Now that would then depend on what type of radio mic receiver you're using, or you could use it to power something like guitar pedals. So very simple, just plug it into the back of the radio mic receiver, plug in my USB, got it right first time, and the product just lights up. Again, great if you're a busker, but also, for example, for events companies and corporate use, if you want to give a presentation and you don't want to have wires trailing everywhere, this is a really, really quick solution. As you can see, it took me less than 5 seconds to set it up. So yeah, really, really neat feature, really, really useful.
So what's next?
So the EON One range continues with the EON One MK2. So as you can see, we've got the same one-hand carry system as the IRX One, where the pieces of the column are stored in the back of the unit. Now, this unit, believe it or not, is also battery powered, same as the EON One Compact. And that battery is held in this bottom part of the column. Again, the setup time on the column, similar to the IRX One, is done in seconds, and then we're up and running. It is that simple. Acoustically, this is a bit more powerful than the IRX One. This will give us 123 dB of max volume versus 118 on the IRX One. We have a 10-inch subwoofer versus an 8-inch subwoofer, and we've got 8 drivers in the array versus 6 drivers. Acoustically, it's louder, the bass is a bit deeper, and also it will throw further because we've got more drivers. Sound quality is very similar. Like I say, it's just that extra low frequency extension and the extra volume that we get. It should be noted that when we're using it on battery, we do get a slight dip in output power. If you're using it on battery, it's 119 dB versus 123 dB on mains. So looking at the back panel of this, it looks fairly similar to the EON One Compact. Again, it is a fully featured digital mixer. The difference being here that we have a screen as well. So this screen enables you firstly to access all the settings for the unit, but also to change things like equalization, reverb, delay, chorus, etc. So much like the EON One Compact, we have got parametric EQ on every single channel. There's a high pass filter on every channel. We have reverb, delay and chorus as well. And all of this can actually be controlled from the back panel. However, it is much easier to do it using the Pro Connect app.
Okay.
The other difference to Compact and to IRX is this is actually a 5-channel mixer. So as you can see, we've got 3 microphone inputs, the line input, and again a stereo channel, which can either be a physical 3.5mm jack or Bluetooth streaming. Again, we have the pass-through output for system expansion, and again, we've got the USB power for powering radio mic receivers, guitar pedals, etc. Differences between this and the Compact is obviously it's a lot bigger, it's a lot louder, and as I say, the mixer is slightly better featured in this in terms of what we've got in EQ, also the editability of the effects, and what we have on the output. So we've got 8-band parametric EQ on the output, but also a user limiter where you can actually set a maximum volume threshold for the product as well.
What have we got here?
So this is our flagship product for the all-in-ones. This is the PRX One. So obviously PRX One being the best of the good, better, best. Main differences between this and the products that have gone before is we've gone up a size in the subwoofer again. So it's a 12-inch sub versus a 10-inch in the EON One. Okay. And we also have a much longer array, which has 12 drivers in it. You might be wondering what that array length gives you. So this acts in a similar fashion to the big line arrays you see hanging up at concerts. Oh, okay. And what the long array gives you is really good control over the sound as it's projected. So one of the characteristics of this product is no matter where you are in a venue, it actually sounds pretty much identical within a 140-degree field. And also front to back, again, the character of the sound doesn't change. And we achieve that with some quite clever circuitry in the back. Yeah, but basically this, let's say this is the flagship. It's a lot more powerful. So the EON One Compact is 123 dB. This maxes out with 130. It's probably about 50% louder than the other product.
Oh, wow, okay.
What it's not is battery powered. So the other 2 EONs we looked at were battery powered. This is only mains powered because of the amount of power it needs to generate that sound pressure level. So moving on to the back panel of the product, you can see it looks fairly similar to the EON One Mark II, except we've got more inputs. So this is a 7-channel mixer. So we've got 4 microphone inputs, which can also, of course, be line or instruments. We've got 2 line inputs, and then again, the stereo channel with Bluetooth. In terms of what you get in the digital mixer, it's very similar to the EON One Mark II, but with a couple of exceptions. Firstly, we have dynamics on every single channel. And what I mean by dynamics is gating and compression on all the mono channels. So that's the first 6 channels. And then also we have an extra effect called DBX Subsynth. If you haven't heard of it, it's basically a technology that adds a synthetic bass note 1 octave below the lowest bass note in your material. So say, for example, you were playing acoustic guitar to quite a large venue, you could then use that just to fill out the bottom end and actually push some bottom end out into the audience. Worth also mentioning that this has the lexicon effects built in, same as the Compact, same as the EON One Mark II, and it's reverb and delay chorus. Now I'm chucking a couple of brands around there. I've mentioned AKG, I've mentioned DBX. Now, these are actually parts of the Harman family of brands to which JBL also belongs. So what's really cool is we can take technology from those brands and put it into products like the PRX One. And then we get the guys from our mixer brand, which is Soundcraft, to come along and design the mixer for us. So yeah, much like we cascade that technology from the speakers into the cabinet loudspeakers, we can borrow that design and technology from our other brands when we do the all-in-one products too. So the JBL Pro Connect app is free of charge, available from your app store of choice. So it's available on Android, on iOS, on tablet or on phone. Personally, I prefer to use it on the tablet. It gives you some more real estate and just makes it a bit easier to use, but the phone version is obviously perfectly usable as well. Firstly, let me show you how you would connect a loudspeaker. So if I press the Add Speakers button over on the right-hand side, as I'm sat in Absolute's demo room, you can see all of the speakers they've got here to demonstrate. If I wanted to connect one of these, I would go to the corresponding speaker, go into the menu on the back panel, go to the settings page and hit Connect for Bluetooth control. I would then press the Connect button in yellow on the app, and then there's a challenge response PIN number that you have to authenticate on the back of the unit, and then the unit is connected to the app. The reason for that challenge response is it means that people can't hijack your speakers and control them mid-gig. For the purposes of the rest of the demo, I'm just going to run this in demo mode, because then you guys can do that at home as well. Literally just download the app, and as you can see in the top left-hand corner, you press enter demo mode, and suddenly it's running as if speakers were connected to it. I'm going to start by talking you through what a PRX 900 system might look like, and then we'll go on to looking at one of the all-in-one systems. If we click add speakers on the right hand side, you can see now we've got a selection of speakers, and I can scroll and I'll make a system with 2 PRX 912s and 2 PRX 918 subwoofers. I just press the add button at the bottom, and as you can see, I now have 4 speakers effectively connected to my app. As you can see across the top of the row of names there, when they go light blue, they are connected. The 3 little bars above the name denote the signal strength of the Bluetooth connection. And if you press the 3 dots, you have the option to turn the LED on and off on PRX 900. We can lock the speaker or unlock the speaker. And also we can enable and disable sleep mode. Now those are features that are specific to PRX 900. Going down that channel strip, you can see that we have a locate button. If I were to press that, it flashes all of the LEDs that are on the speaker. Now, that's quite useful if you're connected, as we are here, to 4 speakers and you're not sure which speaker you're controlling. There is also a similar button located at the top right as well, which will flash the LEDs on every single located speaker. Next to that, you can also see a lock and unlock all button, which is denoted by the double padlock at the top right. And again, that's a really quick way of locking your system after you set it up to stop sticky little fingers interfering with your settings. Moving down the channel strip, we then have a save icon. Now, this is part of the power of PRO Connect and this ecosystem. Now, basically, if you press the save icon, it enables you to add a snapshot. Now, a snapshot is something you would save, say you have gone to a venue, you like the setup you've achieved, you can save it as a snapshot, and then when you go to a different venue or a venue after that and you change all your settings, when you come back to the original venue, you can just recall that snapshot. So this is where PRO Connect really starts saving you time, energy, money, because you can return to previous settings very, very quickly. I've just loaded the factory snapshot there. Down the channel strip further, we have the rename button, which, as the name suggests, means you can change this to anything you want. I'm going to rename it PRX 912 just for the sake of this exercise to keep it sensible. And finally, we also have a delete button. So if you want to remove it from the app, you would just press delete. The final thing we can do from this page is if we click this little link button in the top right hand corner, we can actually group the speakers. So if we have, for example, a system made of 2 tops and 2 subs, we can put all of those into group 1, press the tick on the right hand side, and now we can address these products as a group. Now, where that becomes interesting is if we go now to the speakers tab. So that's the second tab down on the right hand side. You can now see that we have independent volume control over all of these speakers. So if I were to put the volumes up to somewhere where they would be usable, now using the group level trim on the left hand side, which is this yellow knob with the blue background, I can adjust the level of all the speakers simultaneously. But as you can see, they retain the offset to each other. So you're adjusting the level relative to the unit. You can also do that using the plus and minus buttons for fine adjustments, and that's really useful, especially if you're on a phone. We can individually mute the products by clicking one at a time, or we can mute them all on and off using the mute button on the left-hand side. As you can see, we're looking at the PRX 912 with the yellow border around it. We've got the level slider, we've got the plus minus buttons and the mute button as before. We've got the G sensor on the PRX 912. What that does is you can set it to auto on manual, and much like the EON One Compact we talked about earlier, it will detect whether it's in a horizontal orientation and just EQ the master output slightly to compensate for that. AFS on the channel, this is the automatic feedback system we talked about. I'm not going to go into detail about how it's used here. Basically, this is the screen where you would turn it on and off and also reset it if it had previously been used. We might do a separate video on AFS because we could do a 15-minute video on that alone. The other important thing here is the master EQ. So as you can see, I've got 12 bands of EQ on this product. I have presets as well, so if I press one of these buttons to the left of the graphical readout here, like DJ for example, it applies a DJ preset for you. Now obviously you can then go in, select a band individually and just manually change that. So for example, you can see I've selected band 5 and I can now manually adjust this EQ. Now, why is this so important? So the EQ on the master output you can use for two things. Firstly, it is for tuning the product to the acoustic space you are in. So you might have, for example, a venue where it's got a low ceiling, there's quite a lot of bass and it might be resonating at a certain frequency. So you could use this EQ quite simply to track that frequency. So if I reset it quickly, I could select one of my lower bands, say band 2. I could make it quite a narrow filter, and then I could just move that filter up and down using the frequency band and then pull out that irritating frequency. So that's quite a powerful thing. Obviously then you could save that back as a snapshot for future use. But we also have these presets which can very quickly set up the room for you. The second part to the EQ is actually the character of the speaker. So if you prefer a sound that is different to how it is out of the box, you can dial in that sound. So say you're a DJ, you want more bottom end and you want top end, but you're not that bothered about mid-range, then you can just tweak that to sound the way you want it to. Also good if you're upgrading from other speakers, and again, you liked some of the character of those speakers, but you really want the features of the JBL, you can tune your speakers to sound to your preference. You can also full screen the EQ using the little icon, the 4 arrows in the top left of the graph, and then obviously you get a much easier way of controlling it. Okay, so moving into the speaker itself. So I'm going to stick with the PRX 912. To get into the details on the speaker, you just press the highlighted name at the top. So where it's highlighted light blue JBL PRX 912, I just press that, and suddenly we have the controls for all of the channels. So as you can see, I've got my volume for input 1, I've got volume for input 2. I also have a gain control on each, so that gain is the gain of the input. Normally for line level use, so say it's plugged into either a DJ mixer or an audio mixer, you would have a 0. But in a pinch, you can plug microphones into these as well. So you could plug a microphone in, increase the gain, and then you've actually got a very basic mixer inside the unit as well. That's really useful as a get out of jail free card. So say you're a DJ and your mixer failed, you'd be able to plug a microphone into your speaker and carry on. We've also got the level on the aux input, and then we have the gain on the mix output. Now the mix output's quite interesting, and at the top of the screen you can see all the settings for it. The reason it's interesting is because it enables us to do a few different things. Firstly, you could use it as a full range output, and that would be to link to another speaker. Now that could be another speaker in the same room, it could be a speaker that's connected wirelessly somehow using a third-party wireless system, or it could be a delay speaker connected by a cable. And when you are delaying the speaker with a cable, you can use this delay on mix out to time align that speaker. So if a member of your audience is in the same room as that speaker, they can hear that audio arriving at the same time as the main system. We also have bass management here. So you can see we have also presets for the two PRX 900 subwoofers. So you can see if I put in a PRX 918, it sets the high pass to the top cabinet at 110 Hertz, the low pass to that mix out at 80 Hertz, and also time aligns the speaker by putting some small delay in there. Basically, if you are using the subs in this manner, this means that your top speaker isn't working quite as hard anymore because it's not doing the bass frequencies, and you can get some overall volume increases from this. So that's the inputs channel in a nutshell. If you were to look at EON 700, it would look very similar with the exception of the being able to control the G sensor and the LED on the front panel. So that's what the cabinet loudspeakers look like. Now if I go back to my speaker page on the top right, and I can just delete these speakers out of this group, and I can look at a PRX One. So the difference with the PRX One is we have a fully featured mixer built into it. So I'm going to add a single PRX One As you can see, it boots up. We've got the same controls in terms of location, in terms of saving snapshots and also renaming the unit, etc. And when we go to the speakers tab on the right, it looks very similar. So we've got level control, again we've got automatic feedback suppression, and we've got the main EQ on the outputs. You'll notice that this is an 8-band EQ, not a 12-band EQ. And we also have a user limiter. What that enables you to do is basically set a threshold over which the audio won't get any louder. Now, this could be particularly useful if you are loaning the product to someone, or if you're in a venue that has a noise limiter fitted. You could find out where that limiter is, set your limiter just below it, and then you're not going to trigger the noise limiter and cut your power. I'm sure a lot of you have experienced that in certain venues, especially wedding venues. Again, to get into the PRX One, we just tap on the light blue name at the top left, and there you can see it looks a bit different. So we've got all of our channels represented here. We also have an effects return channel, which shows you the volume of the effects coming back into the unit, and again, the mix output channel. Looking down the channel strip, so we'll go down the channel strip on channel 1, we can turn phantom power on and off, and that's represented on the first 2 channels, and that's the same on EON One Mark II and the same on the EON One Compact. And then we go down to the dynamics we mentioned earlier. So on screen at the top, you can see a basic overview of the sort of key controls of a gate and a compressor. If you're not sure what a gate and a compressor do, then put very simply, a gate does, as the name suggests, it's either open or it's closed. And when it's closed, it's not allowing audio through. And when it's open, it does allow audio through. An instance where you might use that is possibly on an acoustic guitar. So, for example, when you're not playing the guitar between your numbers, then it would cut that channel off and prevent that feedback that can sometimes occur when the guitar's just left with open strings. Or maybe on a background vocalist's mic, where you don't want that microphone picking up all the stage noise and feeding it through the PA, you can just set a gate that opens that channel only when they're singing into it. Some of you may be familiar with compression from guitar pedals and also from other vocals, and effectively a compressor just limits the dynamic range of a signal. What that enables you to do in practice is gain a lot more control over that signal and then get a more accurate mix. Now, as you can see, we've got the master controls for those, but if you scroll to the left, you can also see that we have in-depth control of all of the parameters of both of those units. Now, this is the kind of thing you would normally find in a fairly expensive digital console. So to find it in a product at this level is nothing short of amazing. That was dynamics. Moving further down the channel strip on the left, we'll go to EQ. This is one of the key parts of the ease of use on these all-in-one products. So EON One Compact, EON One Mark II and PRX One. As you can see on the left-hand side, we have presets for the vocals, presets for speech, presets for guitars. So for example, if I had a male vocal plugged into channel 1, I can press the male vocal preset, and it just gives me a really good starting point for EQing that channel. I could then go to channel 2, for example, and where I might have an acoustic guitar plugged in, I can dial in an acoustic guitar preset, and again, it's given me a great starting point for using that instrument through that channel. If you're not a big fan of that, you can also then select the channels individually, and much like on the master output, you can start tweaking things. So you can move the frequency of that channel around, select channel 4, and maybe bring that level down a little bit. In addition to the 4 parametric channels, you can see we've got a high pass filter. This is to prevent low frequency stage noise getting into the microphone, and you can change the position of that high pass filter and also change the slope on that high pass filter. In addition to the high pass filter and the 4 EQ bands, we also have bass, mid and treble. So those are fixed frequency EQs, and they correspond directly to the knobs on the rear of the unit. Okay, going back to the channel strip, moving further down the channel, we have effects sends. So we talked earlier about having reverb, delay, chorus and subsynth built into the PRX One. The EON One Mark II and the EON One Compact just have the reverb, delay and chorus. And as you can see, we've got a separate send for each of those on the channel. So if you equate this to an old analog mixer, this would be aux 1, aux 2, aux 3 going to separate effects units. Just next to this effects return slider, you can see we've got an effects settings settings button, and in there you can go in and again modify all of the parameters of these different units. There are of course also presets, so if you don't want to do the settings yourself, you can just pick something that suits the room you're playing in or the effect you want to get, recall it, and then you have a different setting. The same for the delay and the same for the chorus. Again, this is way in advance of anything you would normally find on one of these all-in-one products. This is like proper high-end digital signal processing here, and this is what sets this product and the other two products apart from other products in the range. Then finally, just looking again at the mix output, we press the mix out settings button next to this fader on the right. And as you can see, we've got a setting for full range. We've got a setting for if you want to use a separate subwoofer. Again, we've got the delay settings and the mix out level. With PRX One, we also gain another control called delay extended tweeters. Now, that is used when you use the optional mounting kit. And basically what it means is if the column part of the unit and the sub part of the unit aren't able to be aligned vertically, you can use this control to time align the audio so the system still sounds good. So that was PRX One PRO Connect in a nutshell. If you go to EON One MK2, you'll see that it's pretty much exactly the same with the exception of the dynamics, which the EON One MK2 doesn't have. And again, EON One Compact is very similar. I would urge you to go into the demo mode, download the app, play with the app and see what's capable. The last couple of things to talk about down the right hand side is these speakers will operate in twin wireless stereo Bluetooth mode. So if you've got two, you can stream audio to both of them. And also the app is the vehicle for updating the firmware on the units as well. So we are continually updating the app, and for a lot of products, the firmware evolves through the life of the product. Firstly, to fix the occasional bug, but also to add features in and basically make your product more usable. That was PRO Connect. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for coming down to Absolute Music today, Andy. You've got a truly amazing range of products here.
Thanks, mate. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'd say to our customers, people listening, please come down to this amazing store and have a listen to the speakers. Obviously, over the medium of YouTube, we can't really do any kind of critical listening test, but please come down, speak to the guys in store and listen to the products, and I'm sure you'll be very impressed.
I've been Mark from Absolute Music. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon.